So in the United States, we have Thanksgiving coming up next week, and I have just been itching to do a mixed media collage turkey. I don't know, I just really want to do something seasonal, and we're gonna make it happen today, despite a busy schedule. So I pulled out a lot of my different textured papers. I've got ones that I've done with acrylic. I've got ones I've done with marbling shaving cream, some plastic wrap textures, some old landscapes that I cut up, and I am going to turn various bits of just decorative paper into a really fun, festive, quirky turkey for the holiday season. So the first thing that I like to do is pull out decorative papers that are kind of in the color scheme that I'm wanting to go towards. So I pulled out a lot of reds and oranges and yellows. I decided to go for some of my purples, and I'm going to do a lot of mixed media work back into this. So it doesn't really matter that these papers are kind of a crazy hodgepodge of color situations, because I'm going to unify it in the mixed media step. And some of them might not get used. I mean, I pulled out a ton, so I have a lot of choices. Then the next thing I like to do is come up with a background. I'm going to do this one because I love this green paper so much, this green and yellow. But in thinking about the majority of the colors of the paper that I've pulled and color theory and what I'm drawn to, my turkey is going to be mostly warm colors, and it's going to be predominantly orange. And orange or blue are complements. So if I put a blue background behind my predominantly orange and warm colored turkey, it's going to pop nice off this background, and then I can still treat this background too. So I've got scissors, I've got a glue stick, I'm going to grab a pencil. I need to start with the basics of my turkey body and then build out the feathers behind it. So I want to do something kind of neutral for the body so that the feathers are really the star of the show. So let's see. Some really bold colors here. Maybe I'll start with just kind of this marbled paper for my turkey. So what I like to do is, I like the surprise of how it's going to turn out. So I'm going to flip it over, and I'm just going to kind of quickly sketch out the basic body shape of a turkey, and then we're going to go from there. So I could have planned this out in my sketchbook ahead of time, but I don't really have the time, to be completely honest with you. It has been really challenging to find time to create. And the nice thing about choosing a holiday themed piece that I want to work on is that the holiday is coming. Time is not going to stop. So if I want to get this piece done, I just have to make the most of the time that I have. And that means not planning it out. But sometimes some of the coolest stuff can come out of not having, not being able to really obsess over how something is going to look. Because I have a very small window of time to be in the studio today. Thanksgiving is next week, and I want to have this done so I can share it and hopefully hang it up to celebrate the holiday. So this is the exact same process that I use for a lot of different art that I've created. If you followed me for a while, you'll recognize a lot of the different steps. And I'm also hoping to do a lot of December holiday things too. So I trace it on the back, I cut it out, I draw it on the back, cut it out, and then I've got a turkey shape. And I can still use the rest of this paper for more stuff. And this is the start of my background, and I think that's going to be real cool. I think the orientation of my background paper is going to depend on how big and magnificent my turkey feathers get. So I'm just going to set that off to the side for now. And I'm just going to start pulling papers. And actually, the reason I trace it on the back is because I love the surprise of what you actually captured when you cut out the piece on the front. So I want the feathers to be really, really layered, and I want them to get pretty magnificent. Like this is going to be quite the tom turkey. So what I might do is, with this kind of next to me, I might kind of do like a feather map. We're gonna do a test feather. I've got a lot of paper to work with here. So I just sketched out a basic feather shape. I'm gonna cut it out. I do want to make sure I leave it a little wider at the bottom because I want a lot of surface area for when I attach it to the back of my turkey body. So let's see if I can get the basic size Yeah, I think that's gonna work really great. All right, so now I have the basic size. I wanna play with repetition because I love that in art. So now this is gonna become a stencil for building up some of my other feathers. So you don't have to use the same kind of decorative paper over again, but it does kind of create a nice cohesion to your piece if you have your decorative papers revisited several times in your collage material. Just like you would do it if if you're putting a color into a painting. If you've got blue in one spot, it's kind of nice to have that blue pop up in another spot. Or if you have a certain kind of texture in one spot, it's kind of nice to have that texture pop up in another spot. It helps unify across the composition. So you don't have to do it, but it does make for really nice, really good, strong compositional elements. So I am just gonna keep cutting out feathers until I have a whole stack of them, and then I'm gonna go ahead and start building up the feathers behind my turkey dome. Some of the papers I only have a very small bit, so I won't be able to get more than one feather out of this unless I do smaller feathers, which I could do. I could have some small ones. Maybe I will actually. I also don't know if I want that white in there, but we're gonna see. So if I make smaller feathers, what happens? You could do the same process, if you're not celebrating Thanksgiving or you're not interested in turkey, have other birds you want to do, you could use the same idea to create some other birds and just kind of follow the same process. I also have quite a few Skillshare classes that use similar processes and ones that are for making the different decorative papers too. So whether you're in a creative rut or you just want to revitalize your stash of collage materials, definitely check out my different classes on Skillshare because there's something there for everybody. And I'm always working on ideas for new classes, and there might be something that you didn't see before that you're like, oh, now I'm in this creative space and this class speaks to me. I do that a lot. I'm kind of constantly curating a collection of saved classes. Same goes for YouTube. Different artists that I love following on YouTube and Instagram. And I'm always on the lookout for new inspiration and new ideas to get excited about. So sometimes you don't have time to create, but you've got time to kind of curate future inspiration. And that's kind of a nice thing to do. Just subscribe to a channel or follow an artist so that in the future, when you have the time or the energy or you're in the right creative space, you can revisit that and dive in to what they're showing you. All right, this paper is kind of crazy with the white, but again, the white might not show in the end. So I'm gonna grab one of these feathers and I'm gonna use that as a template. Just keep tracing feathers. If they get a little wonky, that's okay. So when I glue my feathers down, I've got my glue stick, but I also might need to grab some white liquid glue because my papers are varying thicknesses. So some of the marbled ones and the watercolor ones are on thinner papers, so I probably won't have any issue gluing those down with a glue stick, but these green feathers are on a much thicker, kind of more like a textured cardstock. It feels thicker than cardstock though. I'm not sure. It was a paper that someone donated to me who was kind of cleansing their art stash. So I don't know what kind of, it almost feels like pastel paper, so it's got the tooth to it. Like a thicker, soft pastel paper. It worked great for unconventional mark making, and it's a beautiful color. But it might prove a little challenging gluing it down. So I might need to get out some white liquid glue, but we'll see. Now, if you're, save these papers, because this could be a really fun decorative piece later on. I love this. There is a limit. Like, I don't save the super tiny stuff anymore. It's just, you know, you only have so much storage and it's hard to keep track of little tiny bits. But if you have the space to store, you know, to store your stuff, definitely save it. I do the same thing with just regular construction paper too. Like, especially if I'm teaching classes with kiddos and we're doing collage, we tend to have a lot of scraps left over. So rather than throw those out, I save some of the interesting ones and have kind of a scrap paper box. And then sometimes it's nice to just randomly pull those scraps out and glue them down and do kind of an abstract, intuitive collage. There isn't, you know, it's not about it. It's not making an image. It's not, you're just kind of leaning more towards interesting pieces of paper that are in colors that speak to you. So I'm going to cut out a few more collections of feathers, and then I'm going to start to sit down and see how it's looking. And I think I need some more of those smaller feathers so that I can break up the section of feathers that's going to be closest to his body. So with that in mind, oof, these are beautiful. Look at that. Gorgeous. Now, this was a watercolor. It was an abstract. It was just playing around when I created it. I didn't want to cut it up. I was kind of like saving it and hesitating, but I love this. This is going to be so cool. Okay, let's make some more tiny feathers. Here, this is kind of a cool piece that'll add some fun variation to my color scheme. So I'm going to quickly trace some of those. I had really hoped to do some mixed media collage pumpkins this year for Halloween. That didn't happen. It could still happen. I mean, it's still autumn in the northern hemisphere. Pumpkins are still part of Thanksgiving, you know, like the November. I kind of feel like maybe my brain is shifting more towards Christmas as that quickly approaches. So who knows? Maybe some pumpkins will pop up on my channel in the next 2 weeks, week and a half, before we shift gears for December. I always find that I tend to come up with holiday or project ideas just a little too late. I mean, if I had all the time in the world, the idea struck, and then I could just, you know, come down here and start creating, that would be amazing. But that is not my current, it's not my current life. Someday that will be the life. Right now, there's all sorts of other good work that needs to happen in my day. So I have to, you know, give myself some grace and jump on it when I can and let it go when I can't. That's kind of the same paper. I feel like I need, ooh, too much? Maybe. Let's go for it. Let's do big ones. Get my green stencil. But I do kind of want to start keeping a sketchbook of ideas. You know, maybe I can't get to them right then, so I put them on the back burner for another year. Or maybe I just say, you know what? It's the middle of winter. I feel like doing mixed media pumpkins. I'm just going to do it. And if you finally have the time, I'm trying to be better about embracing the time I have and not letting, you know, little things keep me from just going for, you know, going at it and doing the things I love. There's always a million reasons why you should not do something. When it comes to the creative stuff, I need to acknowledge those reasons. You know, sometimes I truly can't. But if I can sneak in, you know, even just a little bit of time to start something, then at least it's started. And then I can come back down when I get other little bits of time to keep working on it. And just let that be okay. Because even a little bit of creating is better than no creating. And this fall has gone by so fast. So fast. It's unreal. It's been a good fall. It's just been a busy, fast fall. All right, I've got a lot of feathers. I think I'm gonna start playing with laying this out, and then I can always cut some more. So I'm gonna circle back to my background paper. I've got my turkey. I am gonna give him, a little bit of legs, and I'm gonna give him a cute little face. He's probably gonna be kind of cartoony, but that's okay. I don't have a problem with that. Now, the paper that has the purple, any of the purple papers are gonna blend a little bit into the background. So if I want this feather to stand out, this is where I have to be a little intentional and strategic. And I need to make sure that I put other feathers behind it that are gonna help it stand out against them. So I just have to think just a little bit more. And it's gonna get a little crazy as I kind of figure out this. And I could I could just build it out. And actually I might need a bigger background paper. Or maybe I just need to go sideways. Let's see. At some point you have to commit and just figure it out. I think I'm gonna put some grass on the bottom or something. I want him to have little legs. So if I start building up, I could just build up a foundation of feathers and then, make him work within that. And that might be what I do in the end so that I don't spend far too long, thinking and planning and going, oh, what if, or how about? Yeah, I'm just gonna do that. I'm just gonna start gluing feathers down. Because like I said, I don't have time. I do not have time. But I wanna do this, and today is the day. Now is the moment. So I'm gonna grab a scrap paper to glue on. I was gifted all of these various colored of copy paper, which is great because I don't use them in my art, or I haven't yet, I should say. I haven't used them in my art yet, in the making, but they're definitely part of my process because they're really great because as a gluing surface to keep my work surface clean. This will be the test. The other thing I can do is I put glue over that whole feather, and this is kind of disappearing because if I squint, they're very similar in value. So what I might do is only put glue on the bottom part of it so that I can sneak some feathers behind. And then I can always touch up the tips in the end if I want to, if they need a little reinforcing. But it's a whole lot easier to move a little bit of feather, like a little bit of a piece of paper than a big piece. But if I put, so this is where you don't overthink it, you just go for it. And trust that it's gonna work out. And if you come across any bumps in the road, that you can figure out how to fix those as they happen. I might need some more paper variation. Because even though I've got a ton of it, I do kind of feel like maybe I don't have enough. I also want to be very careful that I'm not creating a pattern. You could go for a pattern. You could absolutely pattern this. I just really don't want to. I want it to be random and organic and just a little bit. I want the unity. I just don't want the consistency of having to think about a pattern. So one way to avoid that is to, put feathers that are similar to each other by each other behind it. I can always check, how is this going? Ooh, this is gonna be cool. It's gonna need a little resolution with the mixed media step. That's my favorite, it's coming together. That is the most amazing part of all this. So I just have to, whoops. Keep my glue stick from falling off the table. Get some more of my greens. And then notice I'm starting to like bring them in so that they'll start to become very full. And then I can put those little ones in there to give it even more fullness. This one, I'm gonna kind of pull these up a bit so I can tuck that under. But I also, there we go. There we go. Perfect. How full is too full? All right, we're getting close. I'm gonna put, and I'm making some really like snap decisions here. You could really, you know, take your time, put it down and see. I'm just grabbing it and gluing it. Okay, I think that is good, but I want to do, whoops, do one more there, and this is where you can be a little bit more like, I thought I had, maybe I didn't cut that many greens. We'll do that bold guy. And then I only have 2 types of paper for my small feathers, which I might decide I don't even need them, but I think I do. Yeah, well, maybe I need an in-between feather. Maybe these need to like, ooh, yes. Yes and yes. Okay, so these, I was originally thinking they would fan out closer to the body, but if I stick these, because I didn't glue everything down all the way, if I stick these in here, they add another dimension of breaking things up and adding fullness, which is super cool. And I'm gonna intentionally like skew them so it's not like a stack situation. Just because when I stacked it, I was like, The other fun thing is a lot of these papers are, like the bolder side for this one is the front, but it bled through, and that's pretty cool. That like little pop of unexpected muted color. I can also take some of my bigger feathers and I can cut them down. So I can cut this into a smaller feather to give me even more options to fill in between feathers. So I'm gonna do that. And that way I'll have some more repetition, which would be really great. So repetition is something I love, and it makes for a strong design element. So bonus, something that brings you joy is good for your art. And then I'm not wasting paper either. Stick some more of these little guys down. I'm loving this. I'm loving this so much. Okay. Scissors out of the way. Let's stick this guy back there. You could also do this with solid papers too, if you wanted to. And if you just didn't have a ton of decorative paper, or you just didn't want to use it, this would look super cool with just solid bits. All right, but now that I've done that little bit there, it's getting a little even. So I'm gonna kind of stick some other bits to really try to break it up some more. then I'll carefully go in. I could leave these up. I just really want to make sure it doesn't fall apart on me. All right, it's a little sparse up there, so I want to fill in his foliage a bit. I think I'm gonna do, oh, I know. Okay, I have, that can go there, and then I've got this last bit there. Okay, let's see. Whoops. He accidentally became part of the process. All right, I think that looks great. I do wish I had, I know what I'm gonna do. No need to wish, we can always cut more feathers. So I'm gonna cut a few more of smaller green ones. So I can really kind of balance out what's happening here. Now I'm going to glue down my turkey body. I think everything is going to stick fine, and I kind of like that these are off the page a little bit. So I'm going to leave them like that to figure out how high do I want them to go. I think I want them a little low. I'm going to embrace kind of the flatness of him a little bit. There. And then he's going to kind of act as kind of a stamp for all the feathers. Extra feathers out of the way. I want to give him legs, and I want those legs to be collaged elements. I also want them to be kind of funny. So I'm gonna, yeah, okay. So glue these little stick legs down. Oh shoot, I wanted to do some grass. You know what I'm gonna do? It's not long enough. Let's bring this guy back. He is long enough. So we're gonna trim off, oops. Trim off the white. So everything is cut. So I could think about doing a torn ground, but I think I'm gonna do a clean kind of rolling bottom. I just want a little bit. What it's gonna do is it's gonna kind of unify this to what's happening up here, which is pretty great. I'm gonna see. I'll have to trim the blue a little bit, but that's okay. Yes, okay. Glue, 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 glue. This is pretty thick watercolor paper, so I'm gonna put a lot of glue on it. Because at this point, I'm running out of time for this lovely moment of art in my studio. So I don't want to stop to get out white liquid glue. Okay, now glue these guys down. They might need a little bit refresher because I had them up for a little bit. Oh, that one's attached. Okay, then I'm gonna do, I think I'm just gonna do like triangle feet. So I want them to be pretty simplistic. I want them to be pretty cute too. I'm gonna cut this. And I'm gonna have them kind of go out. That's adorable. He's a pigeon-toed turkey. If I had more ground, he wouldn't be so pigeon-toed, but I don't. But do I like them that big? I don't. I don't like them that big. So I'm gonna go ahead and trim them down. Oops. Here, that's better. Trim them down. Sometimes when I have a tiny piece like that, I'll just put it on the glue stick and I'll rub it to get the glue. you will probably get sticky. That's okay. I also usually have a wet cloth nearby. I use these terry cloths. I usually have a wet end and a dry end, but I was in such a hurry, I didn't actually set up my art space like I normally would. And that's okay too. All right, now, okay, we have feathers, we have a body, we have super cute legs. I'm gonna go ahead and trim this up so that they match. You don't have to. You could leave that if you know, working with uneven papers. It's a little bit wonky, but I like it to match like that. Then he needs beak and he needs a wattle. So I'm gonna mirror the same paper, but I'm gonna use, oh, I got some red in there too. Turkey wattle. I'm gonna do essence of wattle. So I'm gonna start with kind of a shape like that. And then I'm gonna thin it out. Maybe round it at the bottom. There we go. Turkey wattle. It's blending into this feather. Oh, I can go this side. There we go. Okay. Glue on the wattle. And then we'll give him a beak. Now you could look at a reference of a turkey for this. I have decided not to. So it's gonna be, you know, it's gonna be great. Oh, just found this tiny bit of scrap that is pretty fabulous. I love it. Kind of reminds me of a duck's bill, but we're gonna trim it up to make it turkey. So let's see, it's gonna go that way. Okay. Turkey. Oh, it's so cute. It's really oversized. But I kind of like that. I kind of like that it's oversized. We'll trim it up a little bit. Okay. All right, there we go. So what I'm gonna do, I don't know how I want to do these eyes. I don't know if I want to have them be, oopsies, small pieces. Sometimes you need to kind of hold it and rub it to get them to stay, because I like to slide with the glue. All right, that is looking adorable. I think I'm just gonna ink black in for the eyes. He's kind of looking to the side. He's such a grandiose bird. I think I'm gonna have him kind of simple for this part. So the collage portion is done. Do I need, you know what? I need a little like, a little bouffant thing. I don't have a lot of brown, but I think I can cut it out of this bit of trees. And it's even going the way I want it to. I just kind of think of turkeys as having that like super fabulous kind of, you know what I mean? Like that bouffant hairstyle. Yeah. But do I want it to go over his head? I don't know. I'm overthinking it. So some stuff is getting lost with all that's happening with the decorative papers. That's where the mixed media comes in hand. So that's gonna help give some clarity to this. Sometimes it's a good idea to let your glue dry. If you used white liquid glue, I would let your glue dry before going to the mixed media step. But if you're just using glue sticks, I think you'll be okay. So for the mixed media portion, you could do anything you want to. You can use, I love using brush pens, colored pencils. I would normally clean up my collage stuff before getting into that, but as we've said many times, I don't have a lot of time, so we're gonna just keep going. So I think I'm gonna start with colored pencils, and I'm gonna do a little bit of definition on the turkey body. And then I'll go into the feathers so that we can start to see more variation to those. All right, that's awesome. You can also like keep your colors off to the side. That's a nice way to do it, so you can kind of keep track of what you're working with, which is great. We don't have to add any volume to these cute little turkeys for making one along with me, but it's really fun to add some dimension to a collage. It's become one of my favorite things to do. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. I'm going to do a little bit of basic shading. So I'm going to do darker on the edges, and I'm going to fade out towards the middle, just so he gets a little bit more depth and he gets a little bit more character to him. We're going to have some areas, like because we've got thicker papers underneath, there's going to be some lines that show up, but to work around those, I can just kind of shade, instead of shading across that seam, I'm going to avoid the seam. Now that I know it's, you know, becoming a problem. It's not really a problem, but instead of embracing it, I'm going to, actually, no, I am going to embrace it. There's so many of them, but I'm going to try to minimize them by, you know, going with the direction of the feathers so that it doesn't become, you know, because it could start to take away. Like if I have too much of that bold line showing, then it becomes really apparent that I glued feathers behind the body. And I don't want that to take away from the awesomeness of this guy. This awesome turkeyness. So I'm doing a combination of embracing the texture and getting rid of it. And I'm using fairly realistic colors. Like, you know, notice I went in with a brown. But my paper that I used for his body has purples and oranges and even some blue or green. It's hard to say. There's all sorts of colors in there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to play with those too. So I'm going to go in with some, what is this? This is a rouge. It's kind of it's a purpley red. It's not really, it's not really, well, it's red violet. But that will also help you unify what I've turned this collage paper into with the papers that I used to make him. So using those colors as my guide. And like I said, there's no maroon up here, like there's no red violet up here, but I want to create some unity in my piece. So I'm gonna pull it places it isn't. All right, he looks good. I'm gonna work on his feet. So I'm adding darks, but now I can also go in and kind of add some lights. That's not light enough. I'm actually gonna go really extreme and do a really, really light yellow, just to give a little bit more dimension to his legs and to his feet. And I'm pushing pretty hard to get this light to go on there. I'm not trying to obliterate the watercolor underneath. I'm just trying to, you know, pop some contrast. And now I can go in with some dark at the edges and kind of blend that out over what I've put in, and that'll really make the highlights stand out. And I'll give it some personality. I love this little guy so much. I'm so happy that I made the choice to make art today. All right, that's all I'm gonna do for his feet. I think I could keep going, but I'm not going to. His beak, same thing. I'm gonna go in and put a little bit of light. And then I'm gonna go in, his beak's a little bit different orange. And I chose that intentionally. Like I didn't wanna go with the same color as his feet. So I wanna make sure I don't lose that. So I'm gonna actually pop some yellow in there too, so it kind of stays separate. And then I'll pull some, this was an odd choice. Not loving the yellow I put there, so I'm going to go back in with a little bit and mellow it out. I also want to get his wattle to stand out, so I'm going to do some shading there. I'm going to pop in some really light pink, like a peachy. Same thing I did with the feet. I just want to give it a little bit more dimension. And then I'm going to take that red violet and just pop a teeny bit. And then it's a lot of back and forth with colored pencil. I want to mellow that out a bit, so I really want to get that wattle to be looking red. So I'm just doing a dusting of that, and then another little go around with the very pale pink. Awesome. Okay. Now, I really want to pull this red down a little bit into his body, just a tiny bit. Now, if this became a series, like let's say I wanted to keep revisiting birds, using this, I could shade the body first, and then I wouldn't be dealing with all this texture there. But I really love working in the moment and just kind of embracing what happens. So I'm learning, kind of reminding myself like, oh yeah, that's right. Like there's complications to going over collaged areas. But I also like it too, just embracing what happens. But it's a mental note for later, absolutely. So this one, I could really obsess over these feathers, but I'm not going to. I'm just going to throw in a little bit of colored pencil here and there. I'm going to let it be pretty rough. And we're going to, just keep revisiting it and adjusting it until it feels done. Because this really could take forever if I wanted it to. I had the luxury of the time to do it. But I don't want to let time keep me from finishing it. And it would be amazing to finish today. All right, I'm gonna just go really bold. I have to be a little careful because I didn't glue everything down all the way to the ends. So they're secure, they're stable, but the ends are flappy, so they can definitely fly up and cause your, whoops, like that, cause your color to go all over the place. If it's bothering you, like I'm gonna actually glue that guy down. Because now I flapped it so much that it's, there we go. Okay, cool. Trying to find my purple. In the interest of time, I'm just gonna start popping some dark at where the feathers overlap at the bottom, and then just fade it out to the watercolor. I can always come back to this, but I want to get it to a point where I'm happy with it and it doesn't need anything else unless I choose to give it more. And as long as I have darkness where something is behind something else, they'll add some really, really nice dimension without having to work too hard for it, which I love. A nice, easy way to give your piece some depth. Forgot about my dark green. I have a really dark green. sister green is so dark that I might have to actually pop some lights in at the ends to kind of give it that unifying dimension. But I also don't have to treat every single feather the exact same way. I can for unity's sake, but I don't have to. The ends are starting to curl. That's okay. Right, let's try it. Actually, that works nice because that unifies across the different greens, different green papers. I don't want to lose the luminescence on these ones, these last ones I've got to do, but I do want to get some intensity where they're coming out from behind other feathers. So I'm going to roughen that green, and then I'm going to go in with yellow to kind of pull it all together. I also am realizing that this guy is getting a little, his little hairdo is getting lost. So what I can do is I can go in, I can darken up this feather a lot. And then I can pull that darkness into some of my other red feathers, or the orangey feathers. And then I talked about putting in the yellow. So it's going to be subtle, but it's just going to kind of smooth out where I went in with some really rough green. Because the more you layer colored pencil, the more blended it gets, which is super cool. I love blending colored pencil. I think this little guy, he's standing out because he's so light. So let's intensify him a little bit. There. Oh my gosh, I love this so much, so much. It didn't take terribly long. It did all the things that I love doing. It satisfied the need to finish a project, create, start, have an idea and carry it out. Yeah, so there is my mixed media collage turkey. So if you created one too, or you get inspired to do something along these lines, I would love to see it. So please share it with me. Tag me if you're on Instagram at Elizabeth_welfare. If you're on YouTube and you check it out, send me a message, a comment, get in touch in some way, and let me know how you're incorporating these techniques into your art practice or ideas that you have for future art making. And I am super proud of myself for achieving a Thanksgiving themed artwork when time was really not that available. So thanks for checking it out, and don't forget to like, subscribe, do all the things, and I will see you next time.